Hey, you listen to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and NPR. As always, this is Grady, and live on Skype we got Josh.
Hey.
Sorry if I sound a little quiet or a little sick this week. Just back from the ER about 8 hours ago with some antibiotics for a bad case of tonsillitis, so gonna push through and gonna get out the other end for this episode because we got quite a bit to talk about. And I want to put some focus on it because we rushed over it a little bit last time. NXT, they're heating up. They're trying to get towards their Stand and Deliver show. We've got what? Let me click this. 2 more episodes before Stand and Deliver. And we pretty much know where most of the championships are heading now because we've got our women's tag team number 1 contenders of Alba Fire and Isla Dawn.
You have two dysfunctional teams facing each other. I mean, what's the what was the any other option here? Really, it was this team or basically nobody. It's the only team you're building at the moment.
Yeah, we did say back when they were facing each other that they were going to beat the ever-loving snot out of each other and then go on to be a tag team, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they picked up the championships either.
Yeah. The current champions have felt extremely like a transitional champion, which is fair, I think.
Yeah, there's a little bit of storyline there with Brooks and Jensen, as well, but that's pretty much all that it's got going for it. I don't know. There's not a lot to say when it comes to the women's tag team belts. We also wondered what was going to happen with Roxanne Perez and her NXT Women's Championship. Well, we've got ourselves a ladder match.
Potentially.
And maybe she'll make it.
We don't really know a lot. We just know that it was announced that she may make it to it. She may not. It's possible that we may end up having a brand new one entirely. We don't really know for sure. But it would be a shame to have her reign cut short because of an injury.
Yeah, it seemed to be implied that we were going to be getting our 4-woman going head-to-head in the ladder match, and if Roxanne Perez could make it, then it was going to be her defending her championship, and if she couldn't make it, then it was going to be for the vacant title.
Which is fine. I'd rather have that than and yes, I'm going to call the other company out, and I will use their name, but it's better than the interim championships that AEW does.
Yeah, interim championships are, like, even in MMA, a little bit weird. But they definitely do not fit sports entertainment at all.
No. Yeah, I've always been of the opinion if the person legitimately can't do it, put the title on somebody else and call them the actual champion. Never do an interim. The only situation that I think I'm okay with at an interim championship is basically back when the whole CM Punk storyline was going on. And you had a now legitimate WWE champion that was not around because of the storyline. So you needed another WWE champion. Then the original came back, so you had an interim champion as a result. But because you always know that's going to clear itself up, one way or another. But with the whole interim thing, it's like, well, this is the person is the champion, but they're not technically the champion because the other champion could come back and still retain their championship, and then this title reign never existed. It's one of the stupidest things that they could ever do for sports entertainment. I can understand it with MMA because there are legitimate injuries that can happen. And then you have basically on the interim championship a ready-made title match already made when the guy or girl comes back that's injured. With the storyline with wrestling, it's just because it's predetermined, it doesn't fit.
Yeah, there's always the possibility of just when the person is back from injury, putting the title back on them. If that's the direction you want to go in. Yeah, it's a weird one. And doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me. Raw, SmackDown. Let's talk about our favorite band of purple-clad people. The Judgment Day. They've been getting themselves into quite a bit of a mess along the way. Legado del Fantasma on SmackDown, and then Johnny Gargano and Dexter Lumis on Raw.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's definitely building. You know that moment's coming. That one we've been talking about. We have Rey that's been announced as the headliner for the Hall of Fame. Surprisingly, 2 weeks before the event. Not in January like normal. No, middle of March. That's fine. Rey deserves it. Clap. He's been a fantastic wrestler his entire career. And honestly, he's probably the greatest luchador of all time. So he deserves the honor. And this is no way into trying to diminish it. It's just the fact that we weren't even sure they were going to have it because they weren't announcing anything. And now it's 2 weeks out from the event and they announced Rey. And there's nobody else yet.
I was going to say, a few hours ago, the Great Muta got announced as well.
Yeah. I've been driving all day, so I've been disconnected from all that. Yeah, I mean, it's a situation where we know this match is happening. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of when will the button be pushed that Rey just says, I can't take anymore. Fine, I'll kick your butt at WrestleMania.
Well, they've also not got long, we do only have 2 weeks left before WrestleMania. 2 Raws, 2 SmackDowns, or 3 SmackDowns, I guess, to get there. So, Dominik has already laid down the challenge. Rey has not accepted it. But I do want to give credit where credit is due. The Judgment Day, when they went up against Gargano and Lumis, and when they went up against Legado del Fantasma, they both those times they came out victorious.
I mean, I think the Judgment Day is really, really strong right now. But again, I have another question. What's the plan with the main thing that the heater for the group is Rhea Ripley. And if she gets the championship, does that mean the entire group shifts to SmackDown? And then what will be left of them after Edge is done with them at WrestleMania?
Yeah, I
can't. Yeah, because we will be getting Hell in a Cell between Finn Balor and Edge at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
This feud that we've been begging to end should finally end. Because that's what Hell in a Cell does. It ends feud. Unless your name is Bray Wyatt.
It is an ending stipulation for sure. Yeah, it's probably dragged on a little bit too long, but it does show signs of coming to an end now. As you say, we got Finn Balor versus Edge, we have Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte, we'll have Dominik versus Rey, and it really just leaves Damian Priest floating around for the Judgment Day in terms of what they're going to do. But I could honestly see 3 of them coming out on top.
Yep.
I still say give it a clean sweep and let Damian Priest win something. But I think they put the Battle Royals on like SmackDown now.
Yeah, we don't even know if he's going to be doing anything or not.
Yeah.
To be honest, outside of trying to get into Finn Balor's match, trying to help Finn. At this point, that's the only place I see him appearing on WrestleMania.
We're roughly halfway through the show, so we're going to go into the entrance theme. It is yet another Irish theme. This time it is none other than the man herself, Becky Lynch.
And I'm going to tell you this week right now. Next week is Finn Balor.
Spoilers. You're back at Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, NPR. I'm Grady, he's Josh. Let's talk about the other big storyline, the Bloodline. Kevin Owens is taking on Solo Sikoa. Cody Rhodes is picking up Sami Zayn. Things are definitely building for these guys.
Yep. This storyline is building. It's getting to the point where I think Kevin Owens is finally going to see the light and say, "Fine, I'll help take down the Bloodline with you, Sam," because he's getting his butt kicked every single week right now, and namely because of Solo Sikoa. I think this. I do believe. Also, I think that they are doing some pretty epic storytelling in the background. Because a couple weeks ago you had Cody talking to Kevin Owens in the background of one of the segments. You have Cody going out to help Sammy to keep him from getting killed, basically. I feel like they're building this to where Kevin Owens does finally say, "Fine, let's take down the Usos." Sammy, they take down the Usos, and then Sammy and Kevin help Cody during Cody's match to neutralize the Bloodline.
6-man tag team match at Backlash. The big question for all of this always just comes down to Solo Sikoa's part. And, you know, he's not Roman Reigns. He's not one half of the tag team champions. He's just sort of hanging around. And I hope that he doesn't end up just fading off into the background when we move on from this whole Bloodline piece. You know, when we are talking about Backlash main events and we are talking about, 6-man tag team matches, that does just leave him floating. And, I'm a little worried for my boy.
Yeah, I mean, I like Solo, and I think he has tons of potential. He's definitely a very rough diamond right now that is being shined. But he's definitely in one of the best positions that he could definitely be in right now, with being with the Bloodline storyline, getting exposure to the main roster, and slowly showing character. So I think maybe 3-4 years down the road, we're going to be saying that this was the start of Solo those reign and run.
Yeah, I could definitely see him being something bigger down the line. We'll just have to really wait and see where they go with it, because, once Roman Reigns loses his titles, once the Usos lose their titles, what is the future of the Bloodline? Are we going to be still seeing them? Are they going to start going their separate ways? There's a few questions around it, especially if WrestleMania is going to be the big implosion with no gold left.
Yeah, as you said, there's tons of questions about the aftermath of everything starting to fall apart. But I think when I look at Solo, I see a lot, and maybe it's because he uses a lot of his mannerisms and stuff. I see a lot of Umaga in him, his uncle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he could definitely go to the heights Umaga did, maybe even higher. Because I do believe, at least somewhat on NXT, we did see some personality out of him at some point. And I think being with his brothers and his cousin, I think, will also helped him to some degree too. And yeah, and as you said, we're staring down after WrestleMania. We'll be in uncharted territory with the storyline. There won't be any gold left. Everybody is lost. Roman's lost. Somebody will have to pay in that group for everything imploding. And I think it'll be Jay, to be honest. I think it'll end up being Jay. And maybe there'll be a, loser leaves WWE match or something where Roman or Jay has to leave for a while, and that's where we get like Roman's time off, and get Jay like a moment to like, this is where we were 2 years ago, when I was fighting valiantly against you, and you forced me into your group. Now I end it.
Yeah, it would be a good little bookend to be all the way at the end for sure. The Intercontinental Championship scene. We thought we were going to get ourselves a number one contender for Gunther, but we got ourselves two instead. Kind of.
We technically have not gotten a decision yet, because there was a double pin, which meant Sheamus versus Drew results in a match on SmackDown. While this is being recorded beforehand, to determine who will actually be the. But we know it's going to end with a double pin or a double count out, and they're both going to get the title shot anyway. But we have to say, quotation marks, we don't know who it is yet.
Yeah, I think we've been pushing for a triple threat for a while. Yeah, I don't know how that match comes to an end. Obviously, I'd prefer for Sheamus to pick up the win and complete his accolade set. Maybe he pins Drew to do it. We'll have to see. But yeah, as you say, there was to rewind for people who didn't know, there was a fatal 5-way match to see who would be the number one contender. Drew McIntyre and Sheamus both picked up a pin at the same time. And yeah, they're gonna have their deciding match this week.
Yeah, and honestly, it's an easy story to tell with a triple threat, and it's going to be 3 really good guys in the match. You won't have to have each one doing as much, because there will be other guys that can work for a while, and it's just going. I think it just makes sense, and I think it's the moment that Sheamus gets his Grand Slam moment at WrestleMania.
Lock it in. 100% gonna happen. Another piece to look forward to, obviously I don't want to just sit here previewing WrestleMania, but it's really hard when WrestleMania is only a few weeks away. But Rhea Ripley and Charlotte has at least been starting to heat up now. As we see Charlotte take out Shotzi, with Rhea watching closely from the wings.
Yeah, it was basically this was a match that probably needed to maybe lose a minute. As sad as that sounds, this was a match that should have been a squash that went on too long. And we love Shotzi here. She was never beating Charlotte. She was never even being competitive with Charlotte. She had no business being in the match as long as she was.
Yeah, that's fair. I think they are definitely on very different leagues.
So, I still think it was a mistake to go after Charlotte here, because I really think the better promos and stuff would have been her and Bianca. Because you would have had the whole Royal Rumble stuff. They were the final 2 in the one that Bianca began her epic run. I know this is wrapping up the loose storyline of, well, Charlotte won and went after her and took her title. But that was a very different Rhea Ripley back then. And I think we are in transitional title reign number 14 for Charlotte, so it feels like it's inevitable. And I think that might be part of why I'm not enjoying the storyline. It feels like it's just a means to an end. I don't think there's a universe that Charlotte Flair retains here, because I think everything is being shifted to Rhea, for at least to see what she can do as a champion. Very similar to back when Liv cashed in on her briefcase on Ronda. It was to see what she could do. I think it's very similar here.
That does mean that depending on other match results or on the match ordering, our two women's champions could be Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair at the same time.
Very possible.
Which I think would be super fitting for these two women. They do scream future of the divisions.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it would only last maybe a day, depending on which day you put the title matches on.
Yeah, it all comes down to match order.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure Asuka walks out of WrestleMania with the championship, Raw championship.
You don't think Belair is ready for Asuka?
I think Bianca is. The problem is, I think she was ready for the old Asuka. I think the new Asuka is like on a different league. That's just, so I don't know. It's just a case where it's like Bianca's had her basically 2 years. She took a 6-month hiatus, but she's basically been champion for 2 years. And I feel like Asuka needs the momentum. She needs the moment, especially since hers was ended by Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania with her undefeated streak. So I don't know. I think it's just a case where we're going to be walking out with two brand new champions in the women's divisions.
Yeah. It would make sense, especially with Asuka bringing her new attitude and changing her classic attitude, and changing things up. Yeah, you're right. Bianca Belair has sat at the mountaintop for a little too long. But it's also interesting at the moment in these women's divisions because there's only a handful of women who are in that upper echelon. A lot of the others are just hanging out in a different level, like Shotzi, like Chelsea Green, like Carmella. And so, the two matches we're getting at WrestleMania, Belair, Asuka, Ripley, Charlotte, just happens to be 4 of our absolutely top women in the division.
Yeah, you just so happens the case that you have Rhea Ripley, who is basically filling the role of Chyna. You have Charlotte Flair, who's Charlotte Flair. She's going to be a Hall of Famer. Bianca, I think, will be a Hall of Famer too. She's fantastic. And Asuka is crazy and amazing and probably a Hall of Famer too.
Just give them all the Hall of Fame. Why not? In 10 years' time. We've got a couple of minutes left in the show. Is there anything I've missed or anything that you want to touch on before we run out of time this week?
I think your boy Duke might be being tempted away from Chase U.
Yeah, his fracture with Chase U just seems to be getting wider and wider and wider.
Yeah. Chase talked him back into believing their message. And then Shisham's Ava Rain shows up and gives him a mask with a smile.
That's not creepy at all.
No. And definitely not an indication of something that might happen in the next few weeks.
Funnily enough,
sad
the last
because I really
person...
wanted to see them as NXT champions.
The last person to be recruited via being handed a mask like that was Ava Rain. Yeah, Chase U had they work so well together. And I just don't know what we're doing in that NXT tag team division at the moment. Pretty deadly, failing to capture the titles again off of Gallus. We've just had the New Day holding the titles for a little while. It's not that they're, lacking talent in the division. It just needs to be tidied up a little bit, it seems, or it feels like.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm definitely with the tag team titles. I'm not sure where they're going. Because I think it may have been a mistake to put the Gallus versus Pretty Deadly on free television. Unless you have something in the bank that you're waiting on that you're going to show at the event. Because I think the titles have to be there. It is basically WrestleMania. Could we be doing like a fatal 4-way or something? I don't know. It's just really weird right now with that division.
Yeah, and then a fatal 4-way would be confusing because we've got the fatal 5-way for the North American Championship and the 4 or 5-way ladder match for the women's title. We've already got a lot of multi-person matches lined up. But who knows? We will find out as we approach both NXT Stand and Deliver and WrestleMania 39 coming up in a couple of weeks. But for this episode, we have run out of time. It's been great talking to you.
Baby.
You can visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/WrestlingRNDup, or our Twitter page, twitter.com/WrestlingRNDup, or our YouTube page, youtube.com/WrestlingRNDup. And hopefully next week I will sound a little bit better.